From the headquarters of Telesur English in Quito, Ecuador, this is From the South, and I am Sodomy. We start with some breaking news from Argentina. The Argentinian Football Association appears to have cancelled its planned friendly with Israel after an intense campaign by pro-Palestinian groups calling for a peaceful boycott against Israel. Argentine newspapers, including Hola, Clarín, and others, are reporting that the game has been cancelled and that the Israeli Football Association has been notified. Argentina striker Gonzalo Higuain told ESPN they've finally done the right thing. And we continue our breaking coverage with reports that in Guatemala, emergency services are evacuating areas around the Fuego volcano after a new eruption sent lava spewing down its south side. At least 72 people have lost their lives since the volcano first erupted on Sunday, with many others still missing. Authorities say that more than 1.7 million people have been affected by the eruption, with over 3,200 people evacuated from the area so far. And our correspondent in Guatemala, Mario Rosales, has been in the area and sent us this report.
We are in the department of Escuintla, outside the morgue, established by the National Institute of Forensic Medicine. Dozens and dozens of families are arriving here looking for their loved ones. Bodies are being identified in this temporary morgue. So far, it has been reported that the emergency services have been able to enter one of the most difficult and affected areas. It was impossible to enter before due to the accumulation of ash and sand, as well as the extremely high temperatures. Now, the emergency services will be able to rescue bodies that will be taken to this morgue, where families have to identify their relatives, to mourn and bury them.
We thank Mario for his report. Ecuador's Foreign Minister Maria Fernanda Espinosa has been elected as the new chair of the United Nations General Assembly. Espinosa will be the first woman from Latin America to chair the body, and she'll become the fourth woman ever to hold the presidency of the General Assembly in its more than 7 decades of existence. Espinosa won with 128 votes against the 62 votes of the Honduran Foreign Minister, Mary Elizabeth Flores. During her one-year term, Espinosa plans to promote human rights and justice, as well as the protection of migrants, refugees, and persons with disabilities. So let's take a look at some details about the new president of the UN General Assembly, Maria Fernanda Espinosa. She was appointed as foreign minister under both President Rafael Correa and the current president, Lenin Moreno. Espinosa also served as defense minister under President Correa. She was the permanent representative of Ecuador to the United Nations in Geneva until May 2017, and she holds a Doctor of Philosophy in Environmental Geography from Rutgers University. U.S. Vice President Mike Pence will be traveling to Brazil and Ecuador at the end of June. Pence confirmed his visit to Ecuador via his Twitter account, saying that he spoke with President Lenin Moreno to congratulate him on the progress Ecuador has made to uphold democracy and the rule of law. He went on to say that the topic of Venezuela was discussed and that the U.S. is committed to democracy and prosperity across the Western Hemisphere. The exact dates and cities of the trip are not yet known.
The position of the government of Ecuador and President Lenin Moreno regarding the visit of Vice President Pence is clear and pragmatic. The United States is the most important relationship that the country has. It is who we trade with the most, and the country with the most Ecuadorian migrants. That's why foreign trade and export issues are fundamental.
Barbados is celebrating the ceremonial opening of Parliament, the first under the Mia Mottley administration. In a ceremonial opening, the Speaker of the House, the President of the Senate, MPs and senators entered the chamber to officially begin the new legislative session. The composition of the lower house changed even before today's sitting, as Joseph Atherley resigned from the BLP to become the sole opposition member in the lower house. Atherley still has to appoint a second opposition senator. And the opening of Parliament comes as a delegation from the International Monetary Fund is expected to arrive in Barbados. Barbados has seen a sharp increase in its foreign debt in recent years, and its foreign exchange reserves are under strain. Now, some economists are calling on the new government to cut spending and jobs in the public sector. But Prime Minister Mia Mottley has said she wants to protect social services. And during the ceremonial opening of the Parliament in Barbados, the Governor-General, Sandra Mason, read her government's plan for the country. She said they have 20 mission-critical items on their agenda, with very little room for failure in any of them, with the economy being the most serious of the 20.
After extensive consultation over the last week with the social partners, my government has started the process of restructuring Barbados's public debt and renegotiating existing obligations. In so doing, it will seek the cooperation of its domestic and external creditors and the balance payments support of the International Monetary Fund. It will continue to consult extensively with the social partners in the development of our own comprehensive Barbados economic recovery and transformation plan.
3 Barbadians are coming together to bring a lawsuit that will challenge their country's sodomy laws. One of the 3 behind the lawsuit is Alexa Hoffman. She says they are looking to challenge Section 19 of the Constitution, which deals with sodomy, and Section 12, which relates to serious indecency. Ms. Hoffman says too often the laws are used to harass LGBT people. The lawsuit will be launched on Wednesday at the Law Faculty of the University of the West Indies. This legal challenge follows on from the successful case brought before the Trinidad courts by the activist Jason Jones, which found that country's sodomy laws were unconstitutional. For World Environment Day, a newspaper in Trinidad and Tobago distributed 27,000 packets of seeds with its newspapers to the public. The action was meant to encourage people to grow more food. Customers and staff received packs with a combination of okra, eggplant, corn and pak choy seeds. The seeds were primarily sourced from the Ministry of Agriculture. We're going to take a short break now, but join us again after this look at what our multimedia colleagues are reporting. Welcome back. The Venezuelan Foreign Ministry has released a statement saying that it has received a communication from the International Court of Justice regarding its territorial dispute with Guyana. The memo from the court said that representatives from Venezuela and Guyana would be received on June 18th to hear the points of view of the parties regarding procedural issues relating to the Essequibo territory. The Venezuelan government says it will continue to defend its sovereign rights over Guyana Essequibo. Former Brazilian President Lula da Silva has appeared as a witness in court in his first appearance since his imprisonment in April. He said he knew nothing of the corruption linked to vote buying for the Rio Olympics in 2016 during a statement given from the Curitiba prison.
Never. Not for a moment. Actually, I personally passed a decree in 2009, as much for the 2014 World Cup as for the Olympic Games, a decree on transparency.
In Bolivia, the government is hoping to end 2 weeks of protests by students. Now the government also has to deal with a strike in the capital's neighboring city of El Alto.
Representatives from social organizations in El Alto attended the third session of the talks with the government. They support the demands of the state university calling for a budget increase.
We have declared that the dialogue is open. We are waiting for the community of the State University to change their position and join in this dialogue.
The university community of El Alto did not attend the meeting, however, and on Monday, with the support of social organizations, started a 48-hour strike in that city with roadblocks.
This is starting to become political, and this is not correct. This has nothing to do with the municipality of El Alto. The issue with the State University of El Alto will be resolved with them.
Social organizations in El Alto call for the demonstrators to come to the table.
We are interested in giving a solution to the problem of the public university of El Alto, and as mediators, we have heard the decision of the 5 ministers that have been present today. The dialogue is open from this moment.
After the absence of the leaders in the case of the University of El Alto, we wouldn't like to think that they don't have the intention of solving this problem.
Students, professors, and staff of the State University of El Alto that have demonstrated for more than 2 weeks say they want to negotiate directly with President Evo Morales.
On Monday, Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel met with U.S. Senator Jeff Flake and the former Google chief executive Eric Schmidt. It is the highest level U.S. delegation to arrive in Cuba since he took office. Our Cuban correspondent Laura Prada has more.
Indeed, Cuba's President Miguel Diaz-Canel had a meeting with the U.S. Republican Senator Jeff Flake, who is on a work trip to the island. He is accompanied by other people like the CEO from Google. And in this meeting, he said to the Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel that he is in favor to more cooperation, travel, communications, and to create a better climate of relations between Cuba and USA. In this visit, Jeff Flake also stated that he is sure that Cuba is a safe place to travel. He also gave his opinion, and he confessed to the press that he's always been against the U.S. blockade to the island. This is the first visit the Cuban president received from USA. We'll be here and we will share with you what else comes on from it.
Thanks, Laura Prada, for that report. Mexico has slapped tariffs on American products ranging from steel to pork to bourbon. This move is in retaliation to the U.S. import duties on metals imposed by President Donald Trump, and it takes aim at Republican strongholds ahead of U.S. congressional elections in November. And teachers from the National Coordination of Education Workers in Mexico are protesting against education reforms. They set up tents and they say they will stage an occupation until their demands are met. Eduardo Martinez has more from the demonstration.
Teachers are protesting the education reform imposed by President Peña Nieto, as they consider it to be against their labor interests. They also demand that schools be rebuilt in the areas affected by the 2017 earthquakes, as they are still waiting for the resources necessary. Furthermore, teachers demand that the dialogue with the government, which was called off 2 years ago by the Secretary of the Interior, be restarted. The current Secretary of the Interior, who took office earlier this year, has opposed to restart the dialogue, which would likely resolve this conflict.
We thank Eduardo for that report. Austerity policies are beginning in Costa Rica as the new government announced measures to improve the fiscal crisis affecting the country. Now, public workers are preparing to fight those policies.
Restructuring and cuts. The government of Costa Rica has announced a series of public spending reduction measures. The current fiscal crisis in the country is affecting 6.2% of the gross domestic product.
What we are going to do is not hire more public workers. We are also suspending the wage increases that they currently enjoy. But they are not going to see a reduction in their wages.
The government has also planned its own restructuring. There will be a freeze in the wages for top officers. The annual increases in the public sector will be under $10.
We are aware of the problem, a severe fiscal crisis, but the point is that sacrifices are always asked for us. The measures go against the workers and the public sector.
The Minister of Finance also urged the Costa Rican Assembly to fight fiscal deficit by passing as soon as possible bills linked to taxes and deficit reduction.
We feel doubly affected as the government is planning new indirect taxes that will be applied to all Costa Ricans, no matter what their income is or their ability to pay these new taxes.
On average, the level of fiscal deficit between 2010 and 2016 was at 5.2% of the gross domestic product. In 2017, it reached 6.2%, the highest since the crisis of 1980. The public debt has increased from less than 25% of the GDP in 2008 to almost 50% in 2017.
In Peru, the Finance Minister, David Tuesta, has resigned amidst anger over his controversial bill to reform the value-added tax scheme in a bid to increase the state's revenue. Tuesta was only in office for 2 months. He will now be replaced by the Agriculture Minister, Jose Arista. The Peruvian government is facing opposition against its push for austerity measures. Truck and bus drivers had called a strike to protest against the increase in gas prices. And President Martin Vizcarra has responded to the resignation of his finance minister, David Tuesta. The president says he will abstain from pursuing tax hikes, which led to the bus and truck drivers to call off their strikes.
The country's growth will be achieved based on investment and improvements to tax collection, not at the cost of an increase of the tax burden. In this process, in conjunction with the Premier, we have decided to undertake changes in the cabinet in order to continue advancing our set of objectives.
In Colombia, the killing of social leaders continues to rise. Over 200 social leaders and human rights defenders have been murdered in Colombia since January 2017. At least 8 activists have been murdered during the last week. We look at those killed in the next report.
On Tuesday, in the southern Valle del Cauca, former indigenous governor Amilcar Yegari was shot 4 times in his head and chest. In the same department, the bodies of the indigenous couple Pablo Emilio Dagua and Adriana Montero were found. They had disappeared on Saturday. On Friday, also in Valle del Cauca, teacher Del Mario Reyes was murdered. Reportedly, Reyes was trying to stop drug deals at his school. At the Northern Caribbean Department of Córdoba, indigenous leader Orlando Negrete and Julio Cesar Montalvo were killed. 7 community leaders have been killed in that area this year. Carlos Jimmy Prado Gallardo, social leader and human rights defender for the Afro-Colombians, Palenqueros, and Raizales communities, was murdered in the department of Nariño. Also, former FARC member Fradi Steve Rechica was killed in the Antioquia department.
Women in Argentina took to the streets for a national rally on Monday, marking the 3rd anniversary of the feminist movement called Ni Una Menos, or Not One Less. Like most countries in Latin America, Argentina currently only allows legalized abortion in a few cases, like in the case of rape and risk to the mother's life. The green scarves are symbolic of their abortion fight. The movement is also fighting for an end to gender violence. Demonstrators wore purple cloths to symbolize the bruises on a woman's body after she's been beaten, raped, or even murdered. For more on Ni Uno Menos in Argentina, Gabriela Belen, an organizer with Mala Junta Patricia Grande, which organized the Ni Uno Menos rally in the city of San Juan, joins us on the line now. Gabriela?
Hi, hello.
Hi. So first question, we know that legalized abortion was at the top of the list of demands yesterday. Can you tell us a little bit more about the issue? Why is it so important?
Yes, of course. Well, nowadays in Argentina, abortion is legal only if you have like health issues or if someone has been raped. And well, the feminist movement nowadays aims to get legal abortion without any reasons in the middle. Like, okay, if any woman has to or needs to get an abortion, they can go to a hospital or whatever, or to any place and have the right to have an abortion. In 2005, we started creating a campaign, a national campaign that is called the Legal Abortion Campaign, and that has presented in all these years have legal abortion projects, and nowadays this project is being debated in the Congress. So we are waiting to the Congress to discuss this issue in the next month, and that's why nowadays it's like in the top of the claims of the feminist movement.
So, Gabriela, what sort of impact do you see these mobilizations, as the one you all had yesterday, having in Argentina and the rest of Latin America?
Well, I think they are like really important because we are pressing a lot to our representatives in the Congress, and also this kind of things are happening not only in Buenos Aires, in the capital city of Argentina. This is happening all across Latin America, and that's why the feminist movement has a lot of pressure in getting to the representatives and getting a lot of laws that are part of our rights in the region, and because also we have like really dangerous context for women in our countries, also for the LGBT movement. So having the chance to be in the streets and claiming for our rights is like making a huge impact in the laws that we have and the rights that we are gaining.
Now, we saw some posters at the marches from people asking President Macri not to make a deal with the IMF. Is this a concern of Ni Uno Menos, and why is it seen as an important issue?
That's like a really important issue this year because in Argentina we have like a really dark history with the International Monetary Fund, and well, we had in 2001 our economical crisis. So nowadays, like taking new relations with the International Monetary Fund is like a really dangerous thing for our country because that leads in the past to a crisis. And we know that in crisis periods, women and people from the LGBT community are the ones who suffer more because we have to take in charge everything inside of our houses, and in the poor neighborhoods, for example, women are the ones who have to take care of, who create like spaces for all the children to have dinner sometimes or to eat something during the day. So women are also the ones who have to organize all the resistance around that. So that's why this issue is like a big claim for our movement.
Thank you so much, Gabriela Belen. We've been speaking to Gabriela Belen. She is a women's rights activist based in Argentina. Other news now, a judge in Argentina has granted the property of some land in a high-value tourist area in the city of Bariloche to an indigenous Mapuche community. The judge has ordered the land to be transferred to the National Institute of Indigenous Affairs within 60 days. Since President Mauricio Macri took office, the land has been the property of the army. The government has already appealed the judgment. And the neighborhood of La Bajada district in Argentina's Rosario, where the football legend Leo Messi was born, was seen painting the streets in the Argentinian national colors on Tuesday in the countdown to the World Cup. La Bajada residents were said to have felt excited and entertained while covering the streets of the neighborhood in blue and white. Images show them painting sidewalks, lampposts and walls in the colors that their idol will flaunt in a couple of weeks in Russia. International news now. Former Prime Minister Mariano Rajoy has resigned as the leader of the Popular Party after losing power in a no-confidence vote last week linked to cases of corruption within the party. For more, we go to our correspondent Eduardo Marin in Madrid.
Mariano Rajoy is out, just 4 days following a censorship motion that expelled him from the presidency of the government. Today, he has also announced that he's abandoning the presidency of the Popular Party. He says it's the best for him as well as for Spain. This was announced in the Executive Committee of the Popular Party, and a date will be set for the upcoming party congress to elect his replacement. As of now, we don't know the date of that Congress. Rajoy has also not announced when he'll abandon his seat in the lower house. During his last speech, he reviewed some facts about his administration and criticized the decision of his impeachment. He said that Spain is being governed by a prime minister and a party that were not elected by the people, and he does not recognize the involvement of his party in several corruption cases.
We thank Eduardo for that report. Now, Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has said he ordered the country's Atomic Energy Agency to increase its uranium enrichment capacity if a nuclear accord with the world powers fail. Tensions between Iran and the West have resurged since U.S. President Donald Trump pulled the United States out of the 2015 nuclear deal with Tehran. Other European signatories are, however, trying to save it as they see it as crucial for peace in the Middle East.
I have ordered Iran's Atomic Energy Agency to ready 190,000 enrichment capacity within the framework of the Iran nuclear deal, and for the preliminary preparations to be ready as soon as possible, and to also be ready so that once the president has made the order, it can be started from tomorrow.
And we've come to the end of this news brief. For these and many other stories, you can find them on our website at telesyourtv.net/English. And join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For Tell Us Your English, I'm Sonie Gray. Thank you so much for watching.
A sign of resistance to hatred and injustice. Bill Fletcher